On the two-point conversion, when you went back on tape, did it look like they lined up offsides on that? And did you hear from the referee in-game or anything afterwards?
No, I didn't hear anything afterwards. I haven't heard anything from the league. You'd like, when a guy's lined up that far, I saw the picture, that far in the neutral zone, you'd certainly expect that to get called, though.
John Harbaugh earlier this week talking about Montravius Adams of the Steelers, a new addition to the team who played extensively in his first game, lined up offside apparently on the two-point conversion, the failed effort by Lamar Jackson to get the ball to Mark Andrews. And there it is. You can see the blue line where the ball was snapped, and it does look like he was – I would say that's – you need – some would say you need the straight down the line view. That looks offside to me.
That's not even close.
That looks offside to me. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It almost reminds me of a Thanksgiving night game between the Bears and the Packers 6 years ago when Alshon Jeffrey was standing like 2 yards offside.
I remember that, yeah.
Remember that?
Right.
That's not quite as bad, but yeah, he's offside. He's lined up. He's not in the neutral zone. He is the neutral zone.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're going to get into this a little bit later, but the other thing that, again, bothers me, and this is a little theme we've seen, and I know it bothers both of us, and we got a few at the end of this segment that we're going to show of, end of the game, it's just the game's going to be ref differently. I don't understand that. I mean, it's a big moment, so we're not going to call offsides blatantly like that? And that makes no sense to me. No sense. I don't even know how you could miss that. The referee's standing right down the line there. He sees it. To me, he just is going, I don't want to be a part of a big moment of the game and give them a yard. But no, Montravius Adams knows the rules of football. He knows them. He messed up. You call the penalty. And that annoys me right now about, the reffing.
I think that in this case, and we won't know unless we have a chance to talk to the officials, and we never get that chance. All you ever get is periodically a pool report where the head of the crew, a referee, is asked questions by one reporter and only one reporter for like 2 minutes. But I think in a situation like that, because I know for me, I was in position getting ready for the next little hit that I was going to do on Football Night in America, and I was watching the end of the game on my phone while we're doing the show. Now, when you see them score that touchdown, you feel your vital signs rise. I don't care who you are. If you're connected to the game of football, that's one of those moments that you wait for, and I just would suspect that the officials have that same burst of adrenaline thinking this is going to be great, and I think the person just missed it. So caught up in the moment, they just missed it. Because I don't think you deliberately stuff your flag in the pocket when you see a guy with his hand across the front of the ball. I don't think you deliberately say, I don't want to affect the game here. I just think that they were caught up in the moment. They just didn't see it.
Again, that's fine. It's not a great excuse. In my opinion, no.
I'm not saying it's an excuse. I'm just saying I don't think they deliberately said this is end of game. We're going to play. Yeah. We're gonna use different rules here. Like it doesn't matter where you line up.
Yeah.
I just think it's one of those where if they had seen it, they call it. I think they may have been so caught up in the moment, like, all right, I got to make sure I got all my keys.
Yeah.
What am I doing here? All right, we ready? And missed what was right down the line in front of them.
Maybe, yes. But again, I don't know. That's where I get into, like, maybe if they were a full-time ref, they wouldn't be so overwhelmed by the circumstances and be looking at it going, wow, look at all these pretty, terrible towels and stuff. I don't know. But that is just not acceptable to miss something that blatant on that type of play. It's just not.
Hey, we hear about virtual reality all the time as it's used for quarterbacks. And, in fact, they don't talk about it much anymore because I think the teams that use it don't want the teams that don't use it to realize how effective it is. But that's one of the things people say, what would full-time officials do? Strap on the virtual reality goggles and put yourself in those moments where the terrible towels are raising and you feel your heartbeat rising and you learn how to master yourself and set that aside in that moment where you feel the surge of adrenaline because you know that you're part of a pretty cool football scenario.
Right.
That's our first item for this week's After Further Review from the same game. This one is more of a strategic decision, not an officiating decision, because they clearly got it right because the Ravens clearly took an intentional offside penalty late in the game at the 2-minute warning. As the Steelers had the ball, Chuck Clark went offside on 2nd and 2. to give the Steelers that first down. That was done deliberately. They've done it before. John Harbaugh declined to comment on it, which tells you that it wasn't an accident. And as MDS pointed out when he wrote the post at PFT, the Steelers just should have declined the penalty. Just decline the penalty.
You're right.
You can decline it.
That's really
you
what
don't
it
need,
is. Yeah.
They're saying take 5 yards and take the first down. All we're guarding at this point is the end zone. We know to guard the end zone and the front of the end zone, Vikings, not the back of the end zone, the front of the end zone. They were guarding that. They didn't care about the first down. They yielded it, and the Steelers just should have said no, thank you.
Yeah.
And I think this is where the coaching, the awareness, the presence of mind becomes a factor. Mike Tomlin should have known to say no, thanks, we decline.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's, you're right. You decline it. I don't think you can decline it if you're Pittsburgh in that moment, though. I don't. Again, you want the first down, so you got an extra chance to get the touchdown, right? So you take it. But, yeah, it's a little bit of a loophole in the rule here. And, I mean, again, if I was coaching the Ravens, I would have done the same thing. No doubt about it. Yeah, let them have the first down right now. The clock stopped. Get it over with. Let's not waste this play, then to have to call the timeout before a first down. Let's give them the first down now, the clock stop, and we can call the timeout right after. So from all of that, I mean, it makes sense. And John Harbaugh, like Vrabel, like Belichick, they're very in tune with the rules. They understand that. Now, what I don't understand is their defense they played at the a few plays later when Ben Roethlisberger scored a touchdown. Like you said, protect the end zone. Make them kick a field goal. So then your offense only has to kick a field goal to win the football game. That's kind of what drove me crazy watching the game back. They then went all-out blitz and left three corners just man-to-man with no help, and they got picked and crossed up. I don't understand the defensive call there, but either way, I mean, again, what do you do about that, right? I mean, is there anything really that the league can do to change this or stop that aspect of it?
Pete makes a good point because if Mike Tomlin had declined the penalty, it is second down.
Yes.
And it is valuable to reset the downs. And if you lose because you don't convert the first down,
right. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Then why didn't you just take the gift wrap first down?
Right.
So it's going to be difficult unless and until it happens enough times that it becomes part of the mainstream analytics discussion.
Yeah.
Really. Once it's accepted by the analytics mafia, then it's okay if the coach does something that blows up in his face. That's kind of the way it's gone the past 5 years. Once it's accepted by the analytics mob that this is what you should do, and they start pounding on the table that this is what you should do, then if you do that thing that used to be unconventional and it doesn't work, you no longer get criticized for it. So I don't know what the analytics would be when it comes, but this is all part of the formula, and this is why the Ravens did it.
Right.
This is why the Ravens did it. We're willing to give them a first and goal because from an analytics perspective, it's going to be harder for us to have enough time to score.
Yeah.
If we let them run a play, get a first down,
right.
And now we got to screw around with, do we take a timeout? Do we watch 40 seconds go off the clock? We'd rather them have the fresh set of downs now. So that's where this all flows from. It's from a hypersensitivity, justifiably so, to how the passage of time meshes with your broader strategic objectives.
Yes. No, you're right. You're right. And again, I mean, it makes sense. Like I said, I would do the same thing. I don't think the NFL can do anything to change the rule. You can't prove that they were doing it intentionally, even though we kind of know they were. And hey, it's the smart play all the way. I'm not mad at John Harbaugh or the Ravens. That's for sure.
They have a hard enough time determining when guys are faking injuries. Good luck figuring out when guys are faking offside. Did you really mean to flinch, or did you?
Yeah,
is that
good luck
acting
with that.
by you?
Good
They're
luck.
never going to get there. All right, another call, and you mentioned this yesterday, and we've written about it, and I've talked to the league about it. This is a horrible rule that from time to time is applied according to the letter of the rule, but plenty of other times it isn't, or it would be called almost every game. This is the blindside block violation from Thursday night when Garrett Griffin of the Saints hit J-Ron Curse of the Cowboys. Curse was blitzing, and Griffin had to come across the formation. You see him there kind of as an up back. He came across, and the rule was passed in 2019 where if you are moving parallel to or toward your goal line, you cannot strike an opponent forcibly with helmet, shoulder, or forearm. All you can do in that situation to comply with the rule is basically go open hand or do the old basketball charge where you stand there, and just let them run into you. You can't use your shoulder, your forearm, or your helmet to forcibly strike the opponent when you are moving parallel to or towards your own goal line. And what we saw there, proper application of the rule, even though he tried to go hands, coached up to only go hands, he's got the helmet in it. When you put the helmet down and you go helmet to helmet in that setting, see that? The hands are fine. The helmet's the problem. That's why it drew the foul. And as the rule is written, and it was passed in 2019, as the rule is written, it's a proper call. But it
lacked common
would
sense.
See that every game. It's a horrible rule. This is a rule that was crafted not by football people.
Of course.
This was a rule crafted by PR and lawyers. This is a Jeff Miller, Jeff Pash special. Just like the lowering the helmet rule that they alone crafted. I'm tipping a little bit of the reporting that's done in Playmakers, the book that comes out March 15. They crafted that rule without football people. This is a liability, safety, and possibly let's get to 18 games rule. And it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't get called consistently. And when it gets called in a moment like that, that's the kind of thing that gets people to say the fix is in.
Well,
that's the problem with having a rule like that doesn't get called on a consistent basis.
It's lack of common sense by the Jeffs and the referees. It's lack of common sense. Listen, I could show you, 30 pass plays from every game with the defensive end going around the edge, and the offensive tackle has to lower his head because let me explain this to the Jeffs of the world, all right? When a guy that's
permissible, it may be permissible in the tackle box. I got to pull up the rule.
That was the tackle box. I mean, it's just the line slid one way, he was there. It makes no sense. And again, I'm so sick of the helmet thing. I'm so sick of the helmet. Like, wait. All right, there's a guy that's 215 pounds who runs 4.4 running. You're not going to stand up straight like the scarecrow to block him and be like, I'm going to block him. See, what you have to do is lower your body. And see, when you lower your body, your head goes down too. That's all this crazy stuff. The head's connected to it. Whoa. So, yeah. And then they're wearing these big helmets, and all these guys got big heads to begin with. And then they touched. Oh, no. Get the hell out of there with that. Common sense, somebody.
Let me point this out before we forget, because this is the exception, and this is why it's not a foul when a left tackle does it as a defensive end is trying to get around him to the quarterback, and he's clearly going parallel or toward, as he creates the pocket, he's going parallel or toward his own goal line. It's not a foul for a blindside block if the forcible contact occurs in close line play prior to the ball leaving that area. So
let's show the play again. Let's show it again, because I think
it's not close line play.
Well, it is.
It's not line play.
Wait, but
he's in the backfield.
But he's part of the line, and they slot. Look at all the line slides to the right. He makes it way inside the tackle box. It's way. Look at where he hits him at the left hash.
It's not. But that's the thing. I misspoke when I said tackle box. It's not close line play. This is back in the backfield.
Oh.
Now the question is. Here's the question. Here's the question.
Right.
Because it looks like it would if a left tackle backpedals to try to keep, like an Elvis Dumervil who would spin all the way around you.
Yeah, right.
So at some point you are away from the line, but you're a lineman. It looks not that different than what we've seen tackles do, I guess that's
or a
my
pulling
point.
guard, right? It's a play-action pass. The pulling guard's got to get out there and block the edge guy. It's going to be the same type of block at some point.
Look, here's this was designed to prevent the old Hines Ward breaking the jaw of Keith Rivers. Remember that?
Not this. Yes.
The blocks we used to ooh and ah over, where a guy doesn't see it coming and he gets ear hole and he gets flattened. Here's where common sense is lacking in this rule.
I know.
J-Ron Kirsch saw it the whole way.
Right.
They call it a blindside block. There is no blindside. He sees it. You got to come up with a better name for it. If you're going to expect people to go all in and accept this rule and the officials to enforce it consistently, there's nothing blind about what happened to J-Ron Kirsch.
I know, not at all. It's again, it just goes back to our common sense thing. It's been lost. They're so into just the black and white, and this is how it's written, and that's what it is. And I'd like these guys to start watching football a little bit more and start understanding what the hell's going on. I mean, because again, you're taking away an aspect of the game that is important. He's protecting the quarterback. Isn't the league happy about that? It's all about protecting the quarterback. He won't get touched if we allow this. So, yes, common sense. Please, someone at 345, hurry up and get it.
All they have to say is when the block is thrown within the context of protecting a passer who is in the act of navigating. You can come up with all the lawyer words and the rule words that you want, but basically in a situation like that, it shouldn't be a blindside block, especially when the goal is to keep the quarterback upright. Because you're right, they're balancing their priorities here. We're trying to protect the quarterback, so why wouldn't you allow a block that keeps the quarterback from getting hit, that the pass rusher can see? That's not a situation where a blindside block becomes a risk to the person who absorbs it. And by the way, I asked the league how many times this foul has been called since they implemented the rule. 36 times in 2019, 17 times in 2020. And if you remember, Chris, there was one time in a playoff game, that Bills-Texans game, where we first saw Josh Allen get unleashed as a full-fledged postseason weapon, and they were up 16-0.
Right.
Cody Ford in overtime got called for a blindside block that took the Bills out of field goal range. They would have won the game. Oh boy, look at that. Here we go. And the league later said it wasn't a foul because it wasn't forcible.
No.
You see the hit there. He didn't blow him up.
He did not at all. He just gave a shoulder
it's not
and stopped
forcible.
him from
He's
going.
just getting in the way.
Right.
That took him out of field goal range, and that cost him the game.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's amazing how many we go through the week where we just go, if there was just a little common sense, we wouldn't be talking about this. But there lacks that right now. And it's so black and white that it's really frustrating to watch the sport at times.
It gets back to the old jokes, I mean, how many football people and rules makers does it take to actually craft a rule book?
Well, apparently it takes no football people. It's a bunch of just rules makers and a lawyer.
But
it's a lawyers making it, and that's where it's messed up.
It's a fascinating process that unfolds behind the curtain in February and March of every year, and then we have to pick up the pieces and make sense of it all for 18 weeks of a regular season and several weeks of a postseason. And this is a prime example of something where, and we know that, I know that some people say, oh, yeah, sure, people watch and listen to what we say. Hopefully somebody out there who's watching and listening, who's in a position of power, will start banging the drum on situations like this, because it is stupid.
It's stupid. And we both know we both have coaches that contact us that are happy we're doing this, and they want to talk about it more, but they can't because they're handcuffed by the league. And we know it's a real thing that bothers coaches throughout the NFL right now.
All right. The Sky Judge protocol that we have been advocating for a while that needs to be fully and completely in the game, it is partially in the game. And it was utilized on Monday night to change the ruling that was made on the field that the punt that N'Keal Harry, in his first ever career punt return, so much for Bill Belichick being a super genius. He puts a guy out there who's never returned a punt before in this wind, and he gets his face mask a little too close to the ball. And initially, very forcefully, the official said, no, didn't touch him. It's Patriots ball. No. Well, the modified Sky Judge that is available, whether it's the replay official on site or the league office, determined that the ball touched the face mask of N'Keal Harry.
Yeah.
And this is where the Manning cast can be very valuable, because they were all over it. The main broadcast, not so much. Eli and Peyton were all over it. Peyton pointed out, you really can't see the ball touch the face mask because they're kind of the same color. Eli pointed out, hey, it's a windy night. How do we know it wasn't the wind that caused the movement and the flight of the ball? And this is where it's important, Chris, because back in 2015, Dean Blandino explained during one of the weekly videos that they used to do, which was very helpful, in a Seahawks-Bears game, the movement of a ball, where it looked like it clearly moved, but unless you actually see clear and obvious evidence of the ball touching the player, movement of the ball is not enough. You have to see it actually touch. And this is where I think the Sky Judge got over his or her skis a little bit and assumed that the ball touched N'Keal Harry without regard to that institutional knowledge, that approach that they have where you have to actually see it. If you didn't actually see it, it's not enough to overturn the ruling on the field.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a tough one. And even with the Sky Judge, I know we might not get every call right there. I know we might not, but again, I don't know. I mean, I'll say with that one, it did look like it touched his helmet. I mean,
did you see it touch it? Did you see it strike the face mask, or did you just see the ball move?
Well, I saw the ball move, and I feel like I did
right.
see it touch. I do feel like I saw it touch. Now, I mean, I wish it was a little bit more forceful.
Clear and obvious?
Well,
clear and obvious?
It's
clear and obvious.
You're right. Maybe not clear and obvious.
50 drunks in a bar.
No, I understand that. I get it. I mean, yeah, maybe it's not clear and obvious. Again, I don't know. Right there, and especially it's hard from that angle. It's the other angle from the front view that we see right here to where – I don't know. It does look like it changed, and it looks like
it does change, but
yeah.
Does it touch?
I know.
Same
You're right.
thing
It's
is,
a tough
I
one.
wish I would have asked for the punt play from 2015, the game between the Bears and the Seahawks, because it was the same thing.
Yeah.
You saw the ball clearly move when it went past the leg of the Seattle player, but the camera was on the wrong side, so you didn't actually see it touch the leg. And I think that's what we have here. And here's another reason why I included this play, Chris.
Yeah.
This sky judge process is intended to happen quickly. Let's make it happen quickly so we don't have to bog the game down for a replay review. That's all the more reason to be 1,000% sure. I know that's mathematically impossible, but I'm trying to make a point here. 1,000% sure that it did do the thing that you believe it did. Otherwise, defer to the full-blown replay where they do take some time and they slow down. It's got to be 500 drunks in a bar to get the sky judge process to overturn
Gotcha.
it. And then it's just the reduced 50 drunks in a bar when it's the replay process. You better be damn sure before you change the ruling on the field without the benefit of the full-blown replay. That's the way I look.
Yeah, listen, I think I look at it the same way. I think it's a tough one. It really is. But I think you're right. If we're going to be, have something here to be a little bit more concise, I don't know if that's not clear and obvious. Yeah, and I think that's the real thing there. And I think you make a good point. So you're right. As much as I like that the sky judge got involved and made things happen, you're right. I don't know if clear and obvious is really real there, and certainly a little shaky.
And here's another example of how having a full and complete roster of full-time officials and replay officials and everyone who's involved in this process, Monday morning, Tuesday morning, day after the game. Let's talk about this. Do you really think that the part-time officials who go home and work their other jobs before they fly to their next assignment, do you think that they are the party to the kind of detailed discussion and debate that you and I just had?
No.
Do you think that happens?
No.
Well, it needs to.
Yeah.
And there's one way to do it. You make them all full-time. We're full-time. We're full-time. If we were just barnstorming in for the weekend games, we wouldn't have the occasion to sit here. If I was still practicing law, I wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation with you, Chris,
right,
about the nuances of Sky Judge and the learning mechanism to make sure when it is fully embraced that you are. I mean, this is the broader point. You got to be completely and entirely sure before you intervene. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're hesitant to do it. I'm hesitant to make that point because that's the kind of thing that puts the turtle head back in the shell. Oh, we don't want to do this. We're going to have the sky judge making irrational judgments based upon incomplete evidence. But I think it's just part of what they have to bake into the process. All right, next play. This one was great for a variety of reasons. Travis Kelce, Chiefs, against the Broncos on Sunday night. Makes the catch, tucks the ball away, ball gets knocked out, ruling on the field, incomplete. After further review, following a challenge by the Broncos, why would they challenge it? Because he fumbled it. If it's a catch, he fumbled it and they had a clear recovery, they would have had the ball right there at the 41. Wouldn't have been a touchdown. We've learned that a long time ago, but it is a clear recovery and you get possession at the spot of the recovery. So the final decision after replay review was that he didn't complete the third element of the catch because he didn't have it long enough. The time element was not satisfied. And Mike Vrabel, member of the competition committee who was off on Sunday, watching the game at home like everybody else, with a vested interest in the outcome of this game because the Chiefs are competing with the Titans for playoff positioning on the tree that goes all the way up to the top seed and the bye that goes along with it. He tweeted in response to the NFL officiating explanation of this play, the rule. There's the rule. With no comment, no criticism, there's the rule. And his point, if you are reading between the lines, His point is this. It's not about time. Time is an alternative way of determining whether or not you have the ball long enough, Chris. If you are able to perform an act common to the game, time doesn't matter. Taking a third step, time doesn't matter. Tucking the ball away, time doesn't matter. And I think that's the point that Coach Vrabel was making there.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how long he had it. He had it long enough to catch it and tuck it away. Catch it and tuck it away. That completes the act of catching the ball. Now, it got knocked out immediately after he tucked it, but he tucked it. I think that's what Vrabel's trying to say, that it should have been a catch, it should have been ruled a catch, and it should have been overturned from an incomplete to a complete.
I know. Again, I'll say this is another really tough one for me. To me, and Mike Vrabel's right. I mean, he's right. The language there, it should be a fumble. But, let's show it one more time. To me, again, this is where maybe the language needs to be changed in some capacity to a degree. Because I don't think on a playground or anywhere anybody would ever call that a complete pass. Really, I don't. Now, it's cool to look at it in super slow motion. It looks like it. But when you watch in real time, I don't know if anybody would call that a complete pass. By the letter of the law, yes. And the NFL and the way they have it right now, it should be that. It was 1-2, like you said, ball tucked away, and then, a third step there. But, when you see this angle in real time, I look at it and go, there's no way that could be a catch. There's no way he had possession. And then again, he's the ball, he's tucking it into his left arm in the process of that when it gets knocked out. So is that full reception there? Again, common sense to me says that's not a reception. Rules of the NFL, black and white, says it is. And, that's where we are right now. But I want to say if I was in the backyard or Ramapo high school football game or anything like that, I'd go, that's not a catch. That's not a catch. But again, the super slow motion aspect of it, of course, increases your thought there to go, well, by the letter of the law, that is. But I don't think eyes can really see that in real time as far as how quickly that happened.
And I agree with what you're saying. And Pete reminded me of the fact that we were advocating for 3 steps until they finally fixed the catch rule. 3 steps is the ultimate test. And that's where it meshes with you know it when you see it, because that's the problem the NFL had for years. The actual rule as applied didn't mesh with that visceral sense of that's a catch. That looks like a catch. And I agree with you. That doesn't look like a catch. And I think part of also what Vrabel was doing was pointing out that it's not about time. It's about whether or not he tucked it away.
Right.
And ruling on the field, incomplete, which means he didn't get it tucked away before it got knocked out. So then the question becomes, on replay, is there clear and obvious evidence that he got it tucked completely before it got punched out? And I think the ruling there should be it's not clear and obvious.
I think so, right. I think that's where they got it right.
So
right.
That's the right way to navigate. It's not about time. See, this is where NFL officials, it's better to not be transparent. Sometimes if you're transparent, you get it wrong. It's not about time. It's about performing an act common to the game. Did he complete the act of tucking it? And I would say they ruled on the field he didn't, and there is not clear and obvious evidence on replay that he actually did.
Yeah, agreed. That's one there where they got to figure out the language maybe to be a little more concise with that, because Vrabel is right. He is right. By the letter of the law, that's the way it should be. But again, I'm not going to sit here and get mad at it, because I think this is where, hey, common sense was used appropriately, and I think the clear and obvious thing, it was still in the process of being tucked away into that left hand when it got knocked out. And, of course, again, maybe they need to change something with, the 3-step thing or anything there, too. You catch the ball, and both feet kind of came down at the same time. It was like, boom, okay? Man, that to me is not the same as I caught the ball 1 step, 2-step, I'm tucking it away, and now there's a giant 3-step. There's maybe needs to be a little more detail in that, so we can understand it a little bit better and not kind of have conflicting views there.
But for the most part, they have gotten it right in application. And the end result, I think, was the right one. It's just that tweet, I think,
I love it. That
focused
Vrabel
on time instead of, I'm talking about the NFL officiating tweet, focused on time instead of the fact that really it was about whether or not he performed an act common to the game, which is independent of time. There's no time element there, because time gets into it. you have to have it long enough to have performed in that comment of the game. Well, in this case, he did. So why are you even talking about time? I think that was his point.
Yeah,
like, if you're going to have these tweets, let's be accurate about how we're interpreting and explaining the rules to people who are trying to understand them. All right, here's one that got Raiders fans riled up and Cowboys fans indirectly because they were the ones who were on the wrong side of multiple defensive pass interference calls on Thanksgiving. Game on the line. Zay Jones gets behind. This isn't the Hail Mary protocol, which applies a different standard, even though the rule book doesn't have a Hail Mary subsection. Derek Carr uncorks a deep pass, and Bobby McCain, beaten by Zay Jones, you can see it. You can see that whether it's the jersey or the black undershirt, you can see the pulling there. And I've had people say, oh, it didn't impede him, it didn't affect him.
What? Like,
you see that?
How did it not affect him?
You see the pulling of the jersey. Of course it affects him.
Right, exactly. I mean, it could have affected his positioning to be able to catch that football right there. And again,
someone is pulling on you while you're trying to focus on the hardest part of your job, which is tracking a ball that's soaring through the sky. Someone is pulling you, and you've got to fight through that while you're trying to focus on making the catch. Of course it's affecting you.
Of course it is. And that's where, like, the average Joe Smiths of the world got to, like, realize, hey, dude, Zay Jones is a freakish athlete. Yeah, he's getting held and everything else, but he's a 6'2" wide receiver who's got strength and a freak. So, yeah, he can control his body a little bit better than Joe Smith, the plumber, who's running down the field if he had a jersey, somebody pulling his jersey. But like, if you did that to anybody else, again, schoolyard, high school football, whatever, yeah, it affects you. And the base point is this. This is the base point, at least in my view. If that was the first quarter or the second quarter, there would have been 97 flags thrown for pass interference. Oh, my gosh, it's bad. Oh, my gosh, pass interference. And that's where I think coaches and teams are frustrated because all of a sudden now we get to the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game, and the game is reffed a completely different way. And that's where I get annoyed, and I know that's really annoying a lot of coaches.
Well, and you're absolutely right. The same standard should apply no matter when it happens. It's either a foul or it's not. Same thing happened in Seattle where Sidney Jones of the Seahawks got Trent Sherfield in a wrestling hold, it looked like, and there was no call. And this is critical. This is the next to last play of the game as the 49ers try to tie it up. Look, hold, push, shove, grab.
I mean, he's holding him for 5 seconds.
Hold his left arm.
I know.
He's got his left arm in a vice grip.
It's illegal contact down the field. I mean, after he right here, it's pass interference here, really. And then, of course, it's still pass interference as he tries to uncover inside. And then as the ball's in the air, like you're saying, his left arm is being grabbed. Yeah, again, that's where it's very frustrating because I think if that's 3rd and goal at the end of the first quarter, there's 97 flags there. 1st and goal at the 1. But now it's late in the game and they don't call it, and it's not acceptable. It's hard. That's hard to play offense that way. Damn, you have to call a certain different group of plays then if they're going to allow that. And I don't know what else to say, but yeah, that was blatant pass interference at any other part of the football game.
Unless this is the old Legion of Boom approach where you just do it on every play and dare them to call it. We've talked about that recently. That was nonstop mugging. There was like no way I'm letting this guy catch this pass no matter what. And hey, if we have to give up 1st and goal from the 1, so be it. Or we give him a 1st down, so be it. I am not letting my guy catch this pass. No way, no how. Now, I will say this, and this is what gets back to the full-time officials point. There's so much inconsistency between the crews because what did we see on Thanksgiving? What did we see in overtime? Right? Critical moment of the game. They didn't tuck the flag away. They threw it on Anthony Brown of the Cowboys.
Right.
So, some crews do it, some crews don't. And I know that it's impossible to get all of them to act the same way.
Yeah.
But if they're all full-time and they're all having meetings together, and you I think enhance a greater sense of consistency among all crews if they're all operating off of the same notes, the same Zoom calls, the same in-person meetings, the same training. At some point, it's all going to kind of settle toward the same standard.
I think so, too. I think that's where you're right. It's going to get more people closely on the same page there. And, hey, your Anthony Brown point, yeah, it's correct. But to me, like, they were so egregious, not even the refs could swallow their flags right there. It was down the field. They were the only people in the screen, like the Raiders one, but even more egregious than that, to the point where, like, the guy's turning around and Anthony Brown's just, and he can't even do anything. So that, to me, like, yeah, they got it right on Thanksgiving. They did. They didn't swallow their flags there, but I think those were so obvious. You know, the pulling of the shirt, you know, oh, you're in the back of the end zone and there's a bunch of people flying around inside the 5-yard line and on. You know, they're not as blatant, or at least, like, just not self-centered on the screen or the ISO like that. And maybe that's why the refs missed it. I don't know. But yeah, I want consistency. I think that's what we're both asking for.
And I'll put the final bow on it by saying this: the 1-year experiment, the failed experiment of 2019, with replay review available for pass interference calls and non-calls, proper application of the standard that was ultimately settled on by the league. The bar was made a little bit higher, but I think both of those would have been called pass interference via replay review. Both of them.
Yeah.
They should have been called. If they would have been called by replay review, by the way, the standard finally was developed by Al Riveron, because it did kind of move around and it had a magic 8-ball quality to it. But by the end of the year, they settled on a high standard. I think both of those would have resulted in flags being thrown by 345 Park Avenue.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.